From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, fill out a Sightlines report, read up on the news wire, and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by Mighty Moose Beard Oil Company. It's 100% Canadian, 100% natural, taking care of beards around the world. Visit MightyMooseBeard.com. Don't forget to use promo code SOR2019 today. One of the most controversial and loudest voices in the field of ufology is on the show tonight. A curiosity since the age of 15, John Greenewald began utilizing the Freedom of Information Act to try and force the United States government and their agencies to let go of what they know. Some of their biggest, deepest, darkest secrets. Since 1996, John has archived all of his research on a website that has been known around the world as the Black Vault. Tonight and today, he has amassed well more than 2 million pages of declassified records. His efforts throughout the decades of research have been responsible for getting hundreds of thousands of pages that have never seen the light of day into public domain. In today's state of ufology, John has been lauded, attacked, cheered, and heavily criticized. Takes a thick skin to what John does. Blackvault.com is the website. Then, at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. John Greenewald, we've been trying to hook this up for about 2.5 years now, and finally, we get you on Spaced Out Radio. So glad to have you here. You're probably one of the most requested guests that my audience has been asking for over the last couple of years. Thank you for finally getting the time, because I know you're a busy guy, to come on this show.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Dave. I'm sorry it did take so long, but yeah, that's really good to hear. I appreciate that, and it's good to be here.
John, 15 years old. At 15 years old, I was busy popping zits, playing hockey, and trying to find a girlfriend. You know, and here you are, establishing what would become, and still is, probably the best piece of information on the internet when it comes to anything to do with the United States government and its agencies and their hidden agendas, their hidden programs, their hidden notes, everything. Why at 15 years old did you get into this?
You know, I was just curious, to be blatantly honest with you. I wish I had a better, cooler, funner story for you, but honestly, I just was fascinated by, I started with UFOs. I was fascinated by the unknown. And honestly, at 15, I never expected to run a website on this, let alone research it and actually build something that people would use now 23 years later. But that's what happened. And I started looking online. Even back then, I was looking for information on UFOs on the internet, and the internet was a much different beast than it is now. But even then, you would find tons of UFO information, web pages, and you couldn't tell what was real and what was not. And what I decided to do was just aim towards figuring out what government documents there were, and had learned about, I didn't discover this was written about in books and so on, but I had read about this 1976 Iran incident document, and I didn't believe it was real. The way that it read, it was, at the time, X-Files was a huge thing, and it read like an X-Files episode, and I thought, there's no way that this is a real government document. And the web page that talked about it said, if you doubt its legitimacy, here's how to request it. You can get it from a agency called the Defense Intelligence Agency, or the DIA. I'd never heard of that before at the age of 15. And then you can utilize this thing called the Freedom of Information Act. And I thought, what in the heck is that? But they said they'll send it to you for free. And I thought, well, free? I'm a teenager, so great. And so I sent off this letter, and sure enough, a few weeks later, it came in my mailbox. It was absolutely genuine. And from that day on, I was hooked. And the Black Vault is modeled after what I ran back on the internet to find, but was not there. And that was a archive of government documents and utilizing the Freedom of Information Act, but official government documents, not leaked, not rumored, not MJ12-ish type documents where you really can never solve if they're real or not, but real documents, and it did not exist. And so what I started to do was build it, and here we are 23 years later, and like you said, over 2 million pages, and I'm still at it. That curiosity has never gone away.
John, with that curiosity, you have taken a lot of heat. You've taken a lot of congratulatory pats on the back. You really have to have a tough skin for what you do because, let's face it, John, just because you're getting the notes, you're the one bringing them out. There's a lot of people out there within the government, within the military, within a lot of organizations that don't like what you do.
Yeah, and it's never been more true with the non-government people that don't like what I do, and I've seen that in the last year and a half or so grow to a number that I never expected, meaning that non-government people, non-agencies, no one at a federal level, but rather just everyday people are upset at what I do. Not everybody. In fact, there's a huge support base for the Black Vault, and I'm honored to have it. But there is a small group that doesn't like what I do, and I think it's because I don't have a stance, and many will argue with that statement, but I don't have a stance or an angle where I go out and try and prove something to be true. I just go out to try and prove something, meaning what is actually there. I don't try and prove A or prove B. I just try and figure out what is more provable, A or B. And so sometimes when you pull out documents and it supports what people say or think, you're a hero. If you pull out documents and it goes against what they believe, you're a heathen. And that's a really interesting thing in this day and age, especially in the field of UFOs, which differs from what it was 23 years ago. Because again, there's this drive in this day and age to believe a certain thing when it comes to UFOs. And if you go against that, then you're a debunking skeptic and you need to go. So yeah, there's a lot of people that don't like what I do from the government side. I know that for a fact. But again, it's bringing its share of attacks nowadays from the general public as well. Again, not everyone, but those are some pretty loud voices.
You have to have a thick skin with that. You really do. And
yeah,
even doing what I do, you have to have a little bit of a thick skin because even though deep down things may be bothering you, or the threats, the attacks, the stories that kind of go along with that, the reputation, it gets difficult because there are times when you can strike back to kind of protect your own manlyhood, if I can still legally use that term these days, or you have to just button up your lip and just take it without giving the real reason for an encounter. Because let's face it, everybody has become addicted to that online drama that seems to be out there. And I admit to it, sometimes I like a good piece of juice that I find on Facebook or Twitter. So with that and the threats that you have you ever been worried about your safety, your family's safety, maybe your parents, your extended family out there, because you live a very public life and you're doing something that is 50-50 love and hate?
Yeah, yes, I worry, of course. I told myself when I was really young, well before I met my wife and again, just a teenager, I told myself even then, do not get paranoid. Do not live in a delusional world where you feel like everyone is out to get you. And I still adhere to that. But in the same respect, I understand that I do lead a very public life. And people, especially in the last year and a half, but I'm going to be fair here. It's gone on for decades, where people attack you and they don't like what you come out with. Because I don't only research UFOs. I research a lot of different government secrets. And when you research government secrets, politicians and political beliefs come along with it. Not because I have a slant, but it obviously ties into certain people. And so then all of a sudden people think, aha, you're a Democrat. Aha, you're a Republican. Aha, you're attacking, so-and-so president or so-and-so politician. And that's not it. So those attacks have always come. But as of late, yeah, there are threats that have come my way. There have been people that have threatened physical violence. I mean, over UFOs, if you could believe it. People have gone that far. And do I worry? Absolutely. But I do try and take certain steps to protect my family because I'm not 15 anymore. I'm older with a family. I've got an amazing 10-month-old daughter, a 5-year-old son, an amazing wife. And so and it's really sad because we want to share pictures of where we are. And if you'll notice, anybody who follows me on social networking, I never check, quote unquote, check in anywhere, because who knows who would show up and maybe take their Twitter battle or whatever snarky remark that I made back at them. Because let's face it, I'm not perfect either. So I don't want them just showing up and figuring out where I'm at and taking the argument to the streets. So it's sad to say, but yeah, you've got to be very, very careful. I don't live that paranoid life, but sadly, people are pushing so hard for their own beliefs that, again, if you give them evidence that goes against that, there are some people that really take it personally, that they can't have a conversation with you. And again, this isn't the majority of people out there, don't get me wrong, but they are absolutely going towards trying to threaten you, bring you down, discredit you, doing anything and everything they can to take away from who and what you are. And that's tough. I mean, I try and have a thick skin, but it doesn't always work. I got Italian blood through my veins, so that really brings out the frustration when people fabricate lies and make it personal, because I'll have a conversation all day long with people. It does not bother me one bit when somebody disagrees with me. And in fact, I encourage that. I've always said I encourage people to challenge what I say and challenge what I believe and challenge what I present, and that's fine. But when people make it personal and fabricate, that's definitely problematic.
Well, if I look at it, because I'm kind of on the same board, okay? If I were to get political, I would be, and there are a lot of people who won't like this, I would be up here in Canada considered a conservative. But it's not my job to talk politics. My job is to, if I was talking politics, as a journalist, it's journalism first and then politics and my personal beliefs second. And you have to call things down the middle. And here's what I see, John, and there may be the detractors who will say that I'm kissing your butt here, and that isn't it whatsoever. I've never done that on this show. Anybody who has heard my interviews with people like George Knapp will be able to tell that. So I'm going to come at you the exact same way, because it's only fair. So my question for you is, when you release something from a FOIA that you get, Freedom of Information Act request, you get a docket of papers or however it comes, because I really don't know, and maybe you can explain that. But you're basically taking the notes from what you get from whatever government agency, you're dropping it on the line, and you're saying this is it. But I don't think a lot of people, in my opinion, out there, and I've seen the critics and I've seen the lovers and the haters as well, I think what they are doing is they're mixing up your personal opinion, which you do use, and saying that you're making up this paperwork that you were getting from the FOIA request. Yet you can't make up the paperwork because that was released by the government. It's not like you're sitting there with a black pen crossing things out. You're just trying to connect the dots, are you not?
That's right. And I've always tried to separate personal beliefs and opinions versus the raw evidence. Now, here's what I've tried to do for 23 years is, even though, yes, I do have opinions and do have ideas about what's going on, I give you 100% of the evidence that I receive. Now, of course, there are some people that say I fabricate that evidence. That's silliness, because anyone can verify it. And that's the power of what I've built with the Black Vault, where, number one, I give it to you for free. Number two, you can download it in an instant. But number three, if you don't believe me, you can go do it yourself. You just emulate how I did it, and you can go to the government, go to the CIA, go to the FBI, go to the Pentagon, go to whomever, and get that information for yourself. And so that really is the power behind it, that anyone can verify it. Now, what I do is take that information, not all the time, but sometimes take that information and help interpret it. Now, of course, my ideas are going to come along with that. And of course, I've never told anybody my way is the only way, and if you don't believe me, take a hike. What I do rather is just say, this is how I interpret this. This is what this means. Here are additional documents to back that up. And I think that some people, they want it, and I want to just say this again, it's not everybody, but sadly the loudest voices out there, they want it in Twitter form, right? They don't want a 10-minute, a 20-minute, or an hour presentation or a 2-hour presentation, where some, and even I would argue the majority of people that visit the Black Vault, they want that information. They will sit there and read through hundreds of pages or thousands of pages. They will watch a presentation because they want to learn. But you still have the loud voices that I would not consider fans of me, but they're out there writing the blogs and doing the tweets, that they want it in this condensed tweet form where you take 1,000 pages and make it 150 characters. And you can't do that with this, like a subject like UFOs. I mean, you just absolutely can't. And so I think that that's what I try and do, is give people all the tools they need to make up their own mind. But in addition to that, because some people want help understanding things, or they're interested in dialogue, or they're interested in opposite opinion. I have a lot of friends that I converse with all the time online, and in real life, that don't agree with everything that I say, and that's fine. We have great conversation. That's what this is all about, and that's why I built the Black Vault the way I did. Is there's a lot of sites out there that will collect research and evidence, and then they'll only give it to you in like a editorialized form. So you only have an article to read, and that's it. So you have to take their word about a document or a photograph or an interview that they did. On my end, I live stream my radio interviews, and then I turn it into a podcast. That's how I do that now. All of my documents, I put everything out there. I don't say, okay, well, I got 1,000 pages, but here's 50 of the most important ones. No, I put everything out there. I received a letter from I'll never forget, it was a scientific research team, and they had downloaded these documents that I had on cloning. And really highly scientific. I debated whether or not to even post them, because I'm like, this is way over almost everyone's head. And the scientific research team wrote me this amazing thank you letter because it played a role in helping their research at this company. And I was so amazed by that, because it's like the sharing of information, what doesn't mean anything to me or possibly you or the next person, means something to someone else, and it worked for them. And I've always remembered that letter that came probably 15 plus years ago, but I've always remembered it because it really showed me that evidence being out there, being freely available, being at people's fingertips with the click of a mouse is powerful. And that's why I do it. But again, it's very hard sometimes to separate a opinion when you bring all that evidence out, because sometimes people aren't used to seeing that evidence, and they want an article to go along with it. They want some paragraphs to decipher it. And so I try and offer that where I can, but absolutely try and stay as unbiased as I can. I know, again, people might argue with that, but I genuinely do.
Well, let's get right into it, because we only got about 4.5 minutes until we go to break. And I'm going to ask you point blank, are you a supporter of the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences?
I support the core of what they are doing, meaning why some of the things that they've said on what they're doing. But no, the way that they have done it, I'm not a big supporter. No, not at all.
Okay, so what do you mean by the way they are doing it? Because I think you and I are quite aligned in the same lines.
Yeah, I don't think that they've been fully honest. I think that information shows, going right back to day one, showing a helium balloon in their presentation and using it as a visual to represent the Tic Tac. I never commented on that, even though they did it a second time in their Italian presentation. I never commented on that either until they did it a third time, talking about metamaterials in a press release just about a month ago. And they used a picture of a earth mineral known as malachite to represent a metamaterial. And I think that those types of things start to add up on allowing us to really pave the way and question, like, what are you guys doing? Why are we using these false visuals to give a false representation of what you're talking about? And that's what I mean by I don't agree with how they are implementing what they want to do. And I think that then is tacked onto an even bigger list when you talk about the claims of their kind of front man, which I think originally should have been Tom DeLonge, or at least that was their intent, and that's my opinion. But rather, the media glommed onto Luis Elizondo. And I was most intrigued by that man because of his claims. And originally, I was all over it. I thought this was awesome. I mean, this was going to be the icing on the cake of decades worth of work for me on a personal level, proving that the government was lying about UFOs. And there was documentation I felt to prove it. And then Luis Elizondo comes out, and I'm like, aha, this is great. And in fact, my red flags didn't start showing up till a couple months after their original press statement and their press conference, I should say, and it just started to fall apart a little bit. And so again, that core of what they were doing, I didn't care about the aerospace division and entertainment, but bringing awareness to the UFO topic, I support that. I think the UFO cover-up is real, and the UFO topic is something that deserves attention. So I believed in that, and I still do for them. I hope they turn themselves around. I honestly do. But sadly, the way they've implemented it, not only as a corporation, but now some of those original claims are starting to fall apart, and I'm guessing we'll probably get into a few of them, but some of those original claims that they built themselves off of are starting to crumble, in my opinion, starting to crumble. And I think that that's problematic because I look at the bigger picture for the field of UFOs, and my concern is this will have a detrimental effect. I just believe that this is not good for the field. It's not a difference of opinion, but rather a documented fact that the stories that we have been fed, you can start pick them apart a little bit and realize we're not being fed the truth here. Like there's something wrong. And so that's why I say the core of what they're doing, yeah, I supported it, I guess you could say. But sadly, the implementation of trying to make it all a reality and the proven fabrications or quote-unquote mistakes or however you want to put it, that's problematic. And it's more problematic than I think a lot of the newcomers to the field realize, because this is all they know. They think I'm a big bad meanie and I'm trying to take down TTSA, which is silly. But that's all they know. And so if this really does kind of crumble and irrefutable proof does come out, I think you're gonna see a problem for the UFO field as a whole that will tarnish it when it comes to the media and the media coverage of the topic as a whole.
Right, and I come from it on a media perspective because that's all I know. I'm not a researcher. Mm-hmm. I'm a journalist, and I'm one. And I will preface this that I am one of the very few journalists who are actually trained as a journalist covering this. And we're going to get into this more coming up after the break in the bottom of the hour. John Greenewald from the Black Vault is our guest tonight. We're going to stick with the TTSA, UFOs. Is there a cover-up? Is there a narrative? Find out next on Spaced Out Radio.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night.
This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TTSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you will be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology: Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com. Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Glad to have each and every one of you listening in. Reminder, if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate that. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, fill out a Sightlines report, read up on Captain Shirk's Newswire, and so much more. From theblackvault.com, John Greenewald makes his appearance, his first one on Spaced Out Radio. Tonight we're talking all things UFOs and disclosure. John's website has over 2 million pages worth of information for you to read for free. That's the way it happens, man. It's about getting the information from Freedom of Information Act requests out of Washington, D.C. John, welcome back to the show.
I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
John, right before the break, we were talking a little bit about the To the Stars Academy, and let's talk about Lou Elizondo here, because you have taken, along with Keith Kluwer and other people, have taken a lot of heat in saying that Lou Elizondo is misrepresenting himself as the leader or the former head of the ATIP OSEP program in the United States government at the Pentagon, going back to 2009, 2010. Yet the TTSA has denied that. Elizondo himself has denied that. Many have. Why are you on the other side of the ledger?
Well, let me say it for the record. It's not Keith Kluwer who wrote the Intercept article, nor myself. It's the Pentagon that has said that. What I believe, and I'm not speaking for Keith, but more so for me, what I feel is if that is not true, then let's see the evidence to the contrary. See, a lot of people have attacked me for a while where I have brought up red flags, problems with the story, contradictions in his own words, things that just don't make sense. Now, some of these, what I call red flags, may have absolutely easy answers. I've always said that. I will remain saying that. So that's all well and good. But when the Pentagon put their weight behind a statement, an official stance, it wasn't Keith, it wasn't myself, and it wasn't anyone else who doubted TTSA. This is the Pentagon. That's a whole new ball game. You know, this isn't the nobody John Greenwald saying it anymore. The weight of the Pentagon was put behind a statement that said that Luis Elizondo had no responsibilities on this ATIP program, which he claimed to be the director of. That is a very powerful situation to have unfold. And the reason is you don't see the Pentagon speak about people very often by name. They may comment on situations. They may decline to comment on situations. But they very rarely say, so-and-so is XYZ. We saw it with Edward Snowden, where the NSA had every opportunity to say, we don't know who Snowden is. He's making it all up. The documents are fake. But rather, they admitted to it. And you had this whole thing unfold with Edward Snowden. You have certain and very rare instances of it happening, but it is very, very rare. So when they did this with Luis Elizondo, that, to me, changed everything. Because this wasn't red flags anymore. This was the Pentagon versus Luis Elizondo. Now, why am I on the other side of the fence? I'll be honest with you, I don't feel that I am. However, in my opinion, as a researcher, the evidence puts me on that side of the fence as it stands where you and I talk right now. I follow the evidence. Some people hate that about me, but I do. And so right now, all evidence points towards Mr. Elizondo not being who he says he is. And those red flags that I had brought up well prior to the Pentagon giving that statement all of a sudden make sense. I'll give you a prime example. Hal Puthoff, whose role is not in dispute, who was working through Bigelow Aerospace, or BASS, was part of the original OSAP contract. That's the original contract through the Defense Intelligence Agency, which, well, it kind of matters who you believe in this part of the story. OSAP was either ATIP, or ATIP was a completely different program, but it spawned out of OSAP. Sorry, even I get confused with it, and I live it. So there's two different stories on whether or not those two programs are the same. Dr. Puthoff says that they are the same, that ATIP was simply a nickname. In one of his speeches, he had made reference to FOIA requesters coming up empty when looking for ATIP information. Now, I'm one of those. I don't know how many he was referring to, but he said that ATIP was not the name, that it was OSAP. However, Mr. Elizondo says something entirely different. He says ATIP was a completely different program. It was not OSAP. That he doesn't talk about OSAP because that's something completely different. Now, that may sound like semantics and that may sound like a little point, but on the contrary, that's a big point, because now all of a sudden the guy who said he headed a program has a wildly different explanation of what that program is versus the other man, Dr. Hal Puthoff, who's not in dispute. I find that fascinating because Hal Puthoff is on the same board as Luis Elizondo in the same public benefit corporation known as TTSA. Why is that? Why do they have two wildly different stories? So those things added up to a point where, to me, as a researcher, that evidence outweighed what Mr. Elizondo was claiming. When the Pentagon issued their statement, that tipped the scales. Right? There's nothing to the contrary now. So now you've got a stack of red flags that remain unaddressed, and now you have the weight of the Pentagon behind a statement. Now, for the record, for those of you who that are listening that may not know, the Pentagon didn't just issue the statement. To the journalist who did cover this, because the journalist actually challenged it, he went back to him, to the spokesperson, his name was Chris Sherwood, how can you be so sure? And Mr. Sherwood came back to him and said, because I checked with current leadership of what is called OUSDI, or that's where Mr. Elizondo claimed that he worked, which actually is not in dispute. He did work there. But again, the Pentagon spokesperson went to that particular OUSDI, talked to leadership, some of which were still there from the days of Mr. Elizondo, and they said that they all backed that statement. So that's not me saying it. That's just a very powerful situation of what has unfolded with the Pentagon. And there has been, now it's been well over 2 months, there is no evidence to the contrary.
I talked to one of my sources who knows Lou, and he says that the big debate around Lou Elizondo right now is whether or not he was an SC1, so security clearance 1, or security clearance 2. This is the big debate within the Pentagon and the Black Project community, because if he was an SC1, he wouldn't have the clearance to run the program. If he was an SC2, then we're talking somebody who was of leadership. Why do you think Elizondo has not come out to clear that up, that portion? I haven't seen it. I know he's talked about it. I know he has come out and said, look, this is what I did do. He's tried to provide as much information as, giving him the benefit of the doubt that he is allowed to say. But why not just admit the security clearance?
Well, I'll defend him on this. Sometimes security clearances themselves could potentially be classified, meaning that he can't just go around boasting, I've got this particular clearance level or this access to compartmentalized information. So I'll defend him on that. I'm less interested in him coming out and saying I have this clearance, because really start to use common sense with dissecting that. It becomes less important on what clearance level he has, but rather what clearance level did ATIP require to have access to it. Why I bring that up is if it was a highly classified program, Mr. Elizondo would not be able to retire in the beginning of October and start coming out and start talking about a highly classified program. Add in the fact that Senator Harry Reid said more than 80% of the information relating to the program was considered unclassified. Those are his words, not declassified, but unclassified, meaning that never held a classification. So it really kind of offers, that common sense approach really kind of offers the evidence that ATIP was not a highly classified program. Did it have classified aspects? Absolutely. Most programs do. They're going to talk about aircraft capabilities, radar technology, whatever they're looking into. Of course, there's going to be classified aspects. But the man who funded the program says 80+% of it is unclassified. That, to me, does not sound like a special access program or some top secret special compartmentalized information program where you need to have a specialized clearance for. So if Mr. Elizondo came out and said that I'm completely wrong and it was this highly classified program, then I would immediately counter that with, then why are you allowed to talk about it? And, of course, he hasn't done that. We're playing hypotheticals. But, again, I think it's that common sense approach to say, okay, then ATIP was not a highly classified program. There's nothing on it that in my mind screams that this is a special access program or anything that required a high clearance level to access the majority. Again, aspects classified, absolutely. I would never doubt that. But the existence itself being this highly classified program, I just don't see it. Not well known, I could buy that too. So I think that that's a misconception in the public. It's like, well, you didn't learn about it until December of 2017 when the name of ATIP was published in the New York Times. And that's right. There's no counter argument to that. But the way the classification works is something can be unclassified but not necessarily be known to the public. That happens all the time. So that really doesn't prove anything. And I think that really is a misconception, especially with the blogosphere, that people are trying to give this aura of this highly secretive program. And Mr. Elizondo, was like the only one that knew. It was like him and the president, and that's it. There's these kind of like silly scenarios. And I think common sense tells us quite the opposite. Because again, if that was true, the likelihood of him being able to retire out of it in October and then start working for a public benefit corporation and flashing the UFO videos and speaking openly on CNN and Fox News and all that, I just don't see that happening at all. I mean, that part does not make sense. If he comes out and wants to put me in my place and explain why it makes sense, I'm all ears. I have no problem admitting if I'm wrong on that. But everything I've seen with highly classified programs, it just doesn't make sense.
A lot of people will say, well, why does he have to admit it? Why can't you just accept what he has said so far and what the information that has come out? There's a lot of people out there, whether it's George Knapp or whether it's Danny Silva from the Silver Record or other people who have come out and said, look, he's already explained this. Other people from the TTSA have explained this as well. What aren't you getting, Mr. Greenewald? Why aren't you accepting this?
Well, that's the problem, though, is that the information is not being explained. There are tough questions out there that are not being addressed. They may be adequately addressed to those who don't want to challenge the company line, and that's fine. And I'm not taking away from anybody who wants to take Mr. Elizondo at his word and everything he spews is gospel, and they follow him because he said it, so it must be true. If that works for them, that's fine. But I want to know why those contradictions exist. I want to know why the Pentagon took a shot at him in regards to a statement saying he is not who he says he is. I want to know why certain things that he wrote, no one else but Mr. Elizondo's words, in emails that just came out through the Freedom of Information Act to myself and other researchers. But I did a big live stream on the internet about a week ago about these documents. In his own words, Mr. Elizondo's own words, these videos, the 3 videos that have been touted as UFO videos, are described as drones and balloons. To be more exact, he calls them UAVs, or unmanned aerial vehicles, or UASs, unmanned aerial systems. Those are just fancy DoD terms or acronyms for drones. So drones and balloons is how he described these 3 videos in emails. He also described them the exact same way in the official documentation to get the videos reviewed for declassification, drones and balloons. Now, why is that? Why was there a different narrative spun on official government documentation, and now it's revealed that the same exact wording and phraseology was used to describe them in emails? why? If this UFO program existed and UFOs were acknowledged and these were UFO videos, the way that you get information reviewed is through an official process where that process takes you to a office within the DoD structure called DOPSR. And DOPSR is cleared at the highest top secret levels to review information for potentially what they call public release, which is just that, release to the public, or what they call restricted release. And restricted release means that it may not necessarily be for public consumption, but the person requesting the review has been granted that they can use it for a government database or something to that effect. That is what Mr. Elizondo requested, not public viewing, but rather for internal United States government use only. So who would think that that has been addressed? No one has addressed that. Mr. Elizondo said in a statement that that he used that terminology so DOPSR would understand what he meant, and that the people that needed to know actually knew what he was talking about. Kind of, again, giving this false representation that the cleared people knew they were UFO videos, but what we're seeing is him communicating with someone who wasn't cleared. Well, that's not how the process works. Again, if he wants to counter me on that, that's fine. We'll definitely have that conversation. But what the public is being told is not necessarily the reality of how this works. And so what I did and broke it down in great detail in this video a week ago is that DOPSR is cleared at that highest level, that even whatever Mr. Elizondo wanted to put in there as a description for the video or what program they were tied to, DOPSR would be cleared to see it, hear it, write about it, and understand it. And the fact that he withheld information, if that's the story he wants to give, withheld information from DOPSR is problematic. The other way to look at it that I think a lot of people are not, though they're attacking me saying, well, Mr. Elizondo wouldn't lie to the government. They would come after him. They would prosecute, and he's not in trouble yet, so you're wrong. But I never said that he lied to the government. In reality, what's more likely is the narrative that was spun to the public is the fabrication. Maybe the government was told the truth. What if Mr. Elizondo really did give them videos of drones and balloons? It's laughable to say balloons, but that's not my wording. That's his.
Right.
So he wanted to create this database that kept track of aerial threats. And I have documentation from the Department of the Navy, namely the NCIS, the Naval Criminal Investigative Service, of drone incursions onto military bases. So Mr. Elizondo's stance on this is something that I fully agree with and support. So there was no UFO or UAP mentioned in his own words, but rather he was proposing taking this information and creating a database out of it for a completely different project. Again, one that I would consider a very important, an important project to do. But the public has spun a different story about these being UFOs and UAPs and, they're unidentified and they're doing all this, weird stuff in the sky. Well, what happened? And so I think that's that misconception. People think I'm saying that Mr. Elizondo lied to the government. Again, I propose that maybe that's the least likely thing. The more likely thing is he was honest. What happened, though, when these videos came out and they had this narrative, a different narrative to the public? That's what I want to know. So both stories can't be true. You can't have in one breath saying something is drones and balloons and in the next breath tell the public, yeah, these are UFOs. They can't coincide. So one of those statements is wrong. So I think that he really does have to address it. And for him to just say, well, the people that were cleared to understand it were told, and we're only seeing a piece of the puzzle that, he essentially held information from DOPSR. I just don't buy that at all. I'd love for him to go on the record and say otherwise, but I just don't buy it.
We have about 2.5 minutes here before we got to go to break. Do you believe Lou Elizondo was part of Team Bigelow before he came out, before we knew about him publicly? Because there is some speculation that he also helped out and investigated at Skinwalker Ranch, and there is debate about that as well. What's your thoughts?
I'd love to see evidence to show it. I don't see it. The Defense Intelligence Agency told me in an official statement that they're not even aware of a ranch in Utah being part of OSAP. Now, that doesn't mean that that's gospel, and it doesn't mean evidence won't come out. That just means that as we stand right now, for what it's worth, because some people don't trust the government no matter what they say, but the government has gone on the record saying we're not familiar with these claims about Skinwalker Ranch being involved in this. And so I would love to be in front of evidence that showed that Skinwalker Ranch, a ranch in Utah, was part of this program on an official capacity, because then it opens up a slew of other questions, which is the fact that the DIA would be interested about a ranch in the middle of Utah. And what a lot of people miss is that the OSAP contract, what they call the bid solicitation, which led to the official contract with Bass, that is publicly available. That was never classified, and you can go download it from the government still to this day. And what it has in it on how it described OSAP, I cannot draw a line from what is there to Skinwalker Ranch, meaning nothing in that bid solicitation saying this is what the program will be defines them going to Skinwalker Ranch. It's like apples and oranges. It's like you're contracted to bake a cake, and then all of a sudden you're building a carburetor. It just doesn't connect. And so I'd love for someone to go on the record in an official way to say, yes, Skinwalker Ranch was part of OSAP, because then there's going to be a slew of other questions that they're going to have to deal with.
Well, I mean, you have to understand, too, they don't have to really say anything about anything Bigelow related. That's Robert Bigelow, for those who are wondering who we're talking about, and his Bigelow Aerospace out of Las Vegas, Nevada. And we'll get into Bigelow coming up after the break, because there's a big tie into this. How does it tie into TTSA? That is the big one that many in the UFO field are trying to figure out at this time. I know I am. It's hard to find information from a private investor. That is very true. John Greenewald, we got about a minute to go here before we got to go to break. Do you think Bigelow, in about 45 seconds, and we'll carry it over, do you think Bigelow is a little bit bigger player than what has been mentioned in TTSA?
If I were to venture a guess, I would say, yeah. I'm guessing he has either thrown support behind it, or money, or all of the above. But that's his thing. I mean, and I'm not even saying that would be a bad thing. I'm just saying that there's too many players involved in TTSA on a board member level that are connected to NIDS and Bass and Bigelow to not think that he's somehow involved or somehow played a role in this is kind of silly. I mean, there's obviously too many connections to Bigelow.
And that is the big one. That is the big one right there. And we will get into that coming up here after the break. John Greenewald is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Yeah, we are going to be going all night long on UFOs, TTSA, disclosure. Are we close? What is the narrative that continues to be played out here? Is it good for the public, or is it just another play to push us away from a very sensitive subject like UFOs? BlackVault.com is John's website, so make sure you check it on out. Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio coming up after this.
Hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Come hang out with me, Little Richie G, as I take over the airwaves on Spaced Out Saturdays. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm going to bring you the most fun on the radio you can have with your clothes on. We're going to get to the heart of the subjects from UFOs to what's going on in the paranormal and everything in between. So come join me at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, for the fastest 3 hours of your week.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thaw. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TTSA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com. We're bringing you something new to the documentary world. Beyond the Spectrum will take you on an historic tour of topics like no other. Sasquatch, UFOs, government secrecy, and more, keeping you on the edge of your seats through the eyes of legendary truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Jack Kasher. Head on over to Amazon Prime or Tubi TV and check us out. Please leave a comment for the filmmakers on their film's Amazon page.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to give a shout out to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates. KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California. WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia. KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon. We're on in Dangerfield, Texas. KDNF AM 1560 and UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Great to have you with us. Don't forget, you could check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Oncophagist. Oncophagist is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Fill out a Sightlines report. And, of course, you could read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, which is updated daily. From the blackvault.com, John Greenewald is here tonight. We are talking UFOs, disclosure, the To the Stars Academy. And right before the break, John, we were getting a little bit into Robert Bigelow and his role with the To the Stars Academy. Now, it's never been announced that Bigelow is involved at any point. However, all signs kind of point to it. And I found it funny because it wasn't until episode 6 of Unidentified, the TTSA show on History Channel, that Bigelow's name was first mentioned by really anybody in that group, even though the majority of the To the Stars Academy's board of directors are all former members, one way or another, of a Bigelow association. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that's the obvious part, that Robert Bigelow has some type of connection here, whether it be helping of the startup of the corporation, pumping money in. We don't have a list of who invested. I mean, they only raised about $1.5 million of the $50 million that they did on round number 1. Now they're within round number 2, looking for investors and how much money they can raise. So who knows what they're going to do. So for me, it's really obvious that I think there's some type of connection to Bigelow and potentially Bigelow Aerospace. What I'm really intrigued by is the fact that throughout this whole process, even away from TTSA, Bigelow Aerospace has remained quiet. They are the ones that, according to the New York Times and Politico, received the $22 million for these contracts. So regardless of them being involved in TTSA, They were involved at the heart of the story, the core of why we are all talking about this. And to anybody who looks into this stuff, when there is media attention that you can glom onto, you take it because it helps your status, it helps your brand, it helps your image. He didn't have to say anything other than, yes, we got the money, yet it's quite the opposite. There has been radio silence since day one from Bigelow Aerospace. That, to me, I think is a fascinating aspect that nobody is talking about. Why would Bigelow Aerospace not try and get involved? Even Raytheon had a press release about their equipment and what they do as a company and tied in the UFO story. And it was because one of their pieces of equipment is what filmed one of the UFOs. And so I think that they saw that opportunity. They created a press release. They said, hey, you guys are looking at those UFO videos? Yep, we were the ones responsible for the technology that captured that. I mean, of course, I'm paraphrasing there, but they latched onto that publicity. With Bigelow Aerospace being completely 100% radio silent on this whole thing, I'm really intrigued by that. I want to know why. I would love to understand why Bigelow Aerospace would not want to try and hop on to the gravy train and take that publicity. And I can't figure out why. I've reached out to him for what it's worth. I know I'm a nobody, but tried to get any type of comment on the stories that have come out. Well, what's Bigelow Aerospace's take? How long did the contract go? Because we've only heard rumors, and I'm starting to doubt. Actually, not starting to. I mean, I've doubted the original reporting on this for quite some time now. So I've tried to reach out to Bigelow Aerospace, and they're just completely silent. They just do not want to talk about it. So I'd love to figure out why. I hope somebody that is a journalist that is covering these stories will one day get some type of a statement from them, because for them to be silent just doesn't sound right.
See, and I think Robert Bigelow, when he appeared on 60 Minutes in May of 2017, and he basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that you don't have to to leave Earth to see UFOs and aliens. I think that was probably 6 minutes of the most believable television that I have seen in a while, and barely anybody caught up to it. We know he loves this topic. We know he has a keen interest, and I also think of John Podesta at this point as well, where if you go to the WikiLeaks pages where it was released that he was having conversations about this topic while still working for President Obama, that it was him and Tom DeLonge who were having these conversations. They are having some very big name people in the field of ufology that are very high up, very powerful. So what does that say about the group TTSA? Are they as powerful as the people they are hanging out with, or are they just trying to project themselves that way?
That's a great question, and I'm not sure. There's a lot of claims that have been made. I mean, there is no doubt that there has been a lot of attention to the UFO topic since October of 2017. Now, I am not a journalist. I do not claim to be one. But one thing that I have seen is that real journalists out there started covering this topic and taking it somewhat seriously. But the shift now is going the opposite direction, whether the biggest fans of TTSA want to acknowledge it or not. Here we are near 2 years later, and what do we have? We now have a lot of controversy behind what they have claimed, and that's because there's a lot of things that are still, I would say, in limbo that we should have addressed. These quote-unquote blunders or mistakes or blatant fabrications. I mean, you pick. It doesn't matter, but we need to figure out what's going on here. I mean, they have on their payroll, literally from what I understand, the head of a top-secret Pentagon UFO study, which there's a lot of problems claiming that, but regardless, that's who they have on the payroll. And yet they're flashing Mylar balloons as a UFO. They're making claims about a highly scientific press release about metamaterials, and they're showing a Earth-based mineral known as malachite. These problems need to be addressed somehow, and I laugh only because it's like, okay, this has gone on far enough. And I think the media is now shifting. that serious attention from December of 17 to the beginning of part of 2018 has definitely waned. And not only has it waned, but you're starting to see a shift in the tone, that it's going back to, it's the rock star-led UFO group and this and that, because nothing has come out of these really big claims. Nothing has been unfolded that really makes us go, okay, this is a peer-reviewed scientific breakthrough. This is something else, and then we haven't had that. Now, I'm not going to fault TTSA for that, because that's a really hard thing to come by. And anybody who thinks that TTSA is the first that has tried to find proof of aliens or an alien craft or alien technology, they're kidding themselves, because all they have to do is open the books. I mean, that goes back decades. Even in television shows I produced myself for History Channel, we were testing metals. It's a really small world, by the way, because one of the pieces of a UFO that was not determined happens to be on one of TTSA's slates to test. They showed it in their presentation of all the pictures of the UFO pieces. So I've held that thing in my hands. We did tests on it for History Channel. So anybody who bothers to look can see that a lot of what they have, they're starting to kind of rehash from the days of old. Literally. I mean, the piece that I'm referencing that I had on the History Channel that they now have, we tested it I think probably close to a decade ago. I don't know the exact year, but I mean, that's how long these things have been around. So here we are again 2 years later, and we're seeing a lot of things that we've seen before and a lot of big claims that have not been followed through. They've said that the 3 videos were not it. They're going to release more, yet that has not happened. They promised something big, from what I understand, in the beginning of 2019. Obviously, we are just about in September, and that hasn't happened that I know of. So there's a lot of things that I think the media is catching up on that said, okay, this was a little bit of hype, so maybe this isn't what we thought it was. So you definitely see a shift, and that's where I look at the bigger picture and where I get concerned as somebody who's been around for 23 years, wanting media attention, wanting the journalists, the real journalists of the world, to take this seriously. Right. I get concerned about stuff like this, where big claims are made, and yet again, it's a big letdown.
Well, John, I've been very vocal about this over the last couple of years. Mainstream journalism has never wanted this story. I've worked in newsrooms. Mm-hmm. I've known people who've worked in other newsrooms. I've talked to journalists off the air, about this subject, who have a mild interest in just learning what is going on. And I think about a buddy of mine, Ryan Recker, who hosts a late night show in St. Louis that I will go on every now and again when he has a weird, strange topic. And one of the things that we have talked about, especially Ryan and I and others, is the fact that they've never wanted this story because it's not because there are CIA or NSA members working inside the newsroom saying what can and cannot go on the air. That's just fallacy and conspiracy. All right. But it's the fact that there's this ego and this attitude that most media members think, and they have this stigma that UFO people are not educated. They are not fashionably stylish. They work the night shift at the convenience store or the gas station. They're not very well off. And this is their way of saying we hate the government, and it's their protest, all because they've watched too many sci-fi movies. That's the reality of the way journalism thinks. So when you have that attitude in every newsroom across North America, and then all of a sudden this story comes out that, holy crap, we are investigating UFOs. Every journalist on this continent was caught with their pants down. And the TTSA, in controlling the narrative, in my opinion, and this is what I don't like about them, in my opinion, is the fact that they jumped on that and said, we got a chance to control the narrative here. They have no idea who people like John Greenewald are. They have no opinion on who Richard Dolan is or Grant Cameron or Linda Moulton Howe. But we'll give them Fravor, and we'll give them Elizondo. They had to after the debacle with Tom DeLonge on the Joe Root program. So the media, okay, like I'll give you an example with me. when I worked in sports radio, I hate soccer, dude. I hate soccer with a passion. I know there are listeners out there who love the game and whatever. I call it a game because I don't believe it's a sport. And my sports director would send me out to cover a Vancouver Whitecaps game. So I would go find a place to sleep in the stands, wait until the game was over, go into the dressing room, throw what we call softball questions. How did you think today's game went? What could you do better after tonight's loss? Or if it was a win, what could you do to improve on this to build a winning streak? Tell me about the goal you scored, because it was a high-scoring 1-0 game. You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm talking about. We asked a lot of softballs. So you haven't seen those tough questions out of Tucker Carlson, out of Anderson Cooper, out of anybody who's been covering this, because they don't know how to dig into this, because they don't know the players. They don't know anybody in the field. And that plays right into a narrative to control the media. And if you control the media, you control the message, which is what we're seeing now. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, a year ago. At this point, I don't think they're controlling it quite as much anymore. That doesn't mean they don't have a presence and they don't have star appeal and they don't get, their time in the spotlight. I'm not saying that, but I would say that control that they absolutely 100% had a year and a half ago is going away, and I think the reason is because. You're absolutely right about the stigma and how journalists and journalism has approached the topic. When you now throw in people like Chris Mellon and Lou Elizondo and Jim Semivan, and then that whole cast of characters that are these powerhouses in their own right, coming from different angles, and they're not that stereotype that they're used to, that was really newsworthy for nothing else other than look at who's involved. And then these extraordinary claims came along with it, and this extraordinary vision came along with it. That's newsworthy. The problem was I think people in the journalistic community got a bit starstruck by it, in the sense that it's like, we are profiling something so extraordinary here. Let's not really spend a whole lot of time fact-checking it, because this is a great story. And yet there's a problem, I think, as you start to pick apart the story and really do try and fact check, that a lot of things were embellished. A lot of claims were embellished. Now, whose fault is that? When I first reached out to TTSA for comment/interview, my original attempt was to interview Mr. Elizondo, and I tried for 4 months. What I aimed to kind of figure out was, is this Mr. Elizondo saying this, and the media is just that loudspeaker for him, that this is his message, or is it being misconstrued? Now, I myself have been involved and entwined in a viral story quite a few years ago about Project Blue Book, and a lot of the media misrepresented it, made it seem like I had posted these Project Blue Book documents for the first time ever, yet I never said that. But the majority of the news outlets that claimed that and made this outrageous story out of what I thought was nothing, never talked to me. And so when I saw Mr. Elizondo's story and how it started to really kind of take some weird left turns, and again, these red flags started to appear, I thought, well, I'm wondering if the media is just doing the same thing, but on a much grander scale. And I reached out, and I couldn't ever figure out if it was the media to blame or him. But I think that starstruck original approach is again starting to wane, and you're seeing that with articles like IFL Science, who just did one that was not real favoring of TTSA and their claims about metamaterials. Obviously, you had the Intercept article, which was really damning against Mr. Elizondo's credibility. Again, if you want to put any weight behind the Pentagon statement at all, that was not favorable. And so all of that has happened in the last couple of months. And now we're seeing more press releases from TTSA, but the press releases are, hey, this is coming. Well, hey, this is coming. Hey, we signed this deal. But it's like, well, wait a minute here. Now we're 2 years in. You're in round 2 of funding, and there weren't a whole lot of press releases when they weren't raising funds. And that, to me, bothers me. It's like if you really were trying to engage with the public and show everybody what you're doing, those press releases would not wane from the corporation when you're not trying to get investors. And so now the press releases are primarily like what may come in the future. this is a possibility. The one big press release about the metamaterial was just that they got the metamaterial. There was no scientific breakthrough or anything. That's press release worthy. When you test a metamaterial and it comes back as some kind of, otherworldly origin or something like that, send a press release out and I'll help you put it out there. But when you just say, okay, we got a piece of metal, and that piece of metal goes back to the 90s, going to Art Bell. And again, I'm not taking anything away from that. But again, it was this has been analyzed before. It's been scrutinized. And that's what they did a press release over, and really didn't talk about anything new. And so it's problematic, because that big picture, the long run, is what I look at. And it, in my opinion, does not look good, because the media took that gamble by putting the spotlight on them. Whether it be starstruck or not, I feel it was a little starstruck that they had these powerhouses behind this story. They're not going to do it again. You need to have something extraordinary for them to put on the front page of their paper, something about UFOs. Because the New York Times did it, the Politico did it, and then as the months went on, quite a few others, hundreds did it, profiled the story. But now, here we are 2 years later, the videos that were profiled are in dispute that they were ever released to the public. We know now that Mr. Elizondo described them as balloons and drones behind the scenes, not only on the official form, but in multiple emails. So you've got this controversy around almost everything that was reported. Whether the controversy is warranted or not, I'll let Mr. Elizondo address that, but the controversy is there nonetheless to anybody who cares enough to look at the evidence. And so John, I think that's why we're seeing.
Right. Sorry to cut you off there, but John, they're not talking to anybody unless you are a favorable friend.
And and that's the other problem to all of this. So that starstruck in the beginning, that starstruck approach by I think a lot of journalists, they only asked those surface questions. The ones that Mr. Elizondo and Tom DeLonge and whomever else they were talking to had the answers down pat. But they're not doing deep dives into any type of interview. From what I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard this from quite a few people, is that when people do reach out and they do consider an interview, they want everything in advance. And that, to me, is problematic, because I don't want to know what people are going to ask me, unless, we're dealing with 12 different topics and I'm shooting a television series where we're doing 6 episodes in a day. Sure, I'll ask for a rundown or a bullet point list. But if I'm doing a conversation with you, I want to know what you want to ask off the top of your head, and I want to get deep into a conversation. You can ask me whatever you want, but I don't want to do a list of questions. That's silly. I don't control your show. And it sounds to me like that is what they've done. And when you look at the interviews they have done, it seems like it's just a lot of the same questions over and over. And with one exception, and I hope you don't mind me giving him a shout out, but Martin Willis did an interview with Mr. Elizondo not too far after this story broke about the Pentagon statement. It's one of the only times I think anybody's ever asked Mr. Elizondo that had him on the air, and his answer was in part because I want to be fair here, and I'm slightly paraphrasing, so I invite anybody to look this up. But he ultimately said that everyone is entitled to his or her own opinion when referencing that Pentagon spokesperson. There was no evidence that was put forth. There was no combating of it. There was nothing, no addressing it. He just said, well, people are entitled to their opinion. How do you say that about a Pentagon statement, And so,
Absolutely.
why are they not getting themselves in the trenches and just fielding the tough questions? Because along with, I'm sure, a lot of other people would have a lot more respect for him.
John, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. John Greenewald from theblackvault.com is here. More disclosure, TTSA, and more after this on Spaced Out Radio.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF 62017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com. Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio. We're bringing you something new to the documentary world. Beyond the Spectrum will take you on an historic tour of topics like no other. Sasquatch, UFOs, government secrecy, and more. keeping you on the edge of your seats through the eyes of legendary truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and Jack Kasher. Head on over to Amazon Prime or Tubi TV and check us out. Please leave a comment for the filmmakers on their film's Amazon page.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Move over, brother, and let me own Saturday night. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm inviting you to tune on in to Spaced Out Saturdays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, where I'm going to bust open the lids on everything paranormal. Why? Because we want answers, and I'm the guy who's going to deliver those answers to you. Join the chat rooms, and we'll see you this Saturday. Just be there. No, really.
We've passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you from the frozen Canadian tundra, where SOR headquarters is situated. Thank you so much for tuning us in. Reminder to all of you, if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always check them out on our free YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, though, hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate that. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where you can rock out to Bumblefoot, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, which was updated daily. And if you're an experiencer, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. We'd greatly appreciate that as well. John Greenewald from theblackvault.com is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We are talking everything UFOs, TTSA, disclosure. It's a very, very important subject for all of us because, let's face it, next to Jesus Christ himself coming down from the heavens, UFOs and alien life out there is the second biggest story in humankind's history. John, welcome back.
It's good to be here. Thank you. A couple hours is flying by here.
I know. It's going way too fast. When we got you we got you for another hour here. So we're pretty appreciative of you taking the time. And I know you're a busy guy. So thank you so much for that. Hey, we were talking about the media right beforehand. And I wanted to get you to comment in regards to the fact that about the narrative being controlled, the message being controlled, because if you control the media, you control the message. And you were saying that you think it was like that about a year ago, but everything's starting to die down. And it always comes back to the three videos, John. It always comes back. The gimbal, the tic-tac, and the go fast.
Yeah.
My question to you is this, because I honestly don't know the answer, and I've been trying to find the answer for this. If those videos were property of the United States Navy, or the Pentagon or the U.S. government, whatever agency it is, how is the Two of the Stars Academy allowed to put their logo on those videos when it goes out to the press and media?
Yeah, that's the kind of the question of the day. In fact, the question of the year, simply because according to the official line, and the Pentagon has stated this now multiple times, in a statement given to me, I don't know how many now they've given it to, but it was exclusively given to me in the beginning, that To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science, named, New York Times was named, we're not allowed to disseminate those videos. So to answer your question, I don't think that you can answer it simply because the official line is you weren't allowed to have those videos in the first place. So now the question mark is, well, they do, and they have done that, so what's going to happen? And I don't have an answer to that. I don't know of any official investigation on what happened. The emails that I received about a week ago from Mr. Elizondo stated from him to Dopser that the videos themselves were unclassified. And what that means is that, again, everything that's unclassified doesn't necessarily mean that you can get it to the public. A lot of times unclassified means it's unclassified / for official use only. And in America, what that means is that no, it doesn't hold a classification, but it still needs to be reviewed to be put out to the public. What these emails prove, and I went through bitter detail, the nitty-gritty on proving it, was the fact that the form did not ask for a public release. The emails eventually asked for public release, but according to the communications, what needed to happen for it to be released to the public did not appear to have happened. And what needed to happen was the United States Navy say, yes, these videos are unclassified, and yes, if you strip what's called the locational data or metadata, what that means is that embedded in the video is, let's say, coordinates to where the aircraft was flying, or the pilot's name, or I don't know exactly what's in the metadata, but it will contain additional potentially classified data. And so once that is stripped, the visuals then are considered unclassified. So that step that needed to happen from the Navy by this FOIA release never happened. So again, we're right back to square one, that these videos were never meant to be out into the public. So what does that mean? Does that mean he's in trouble? Does that mean TTSA is in trouble? I'm not going to pretend to have that answer for you. I would give my best opinion, and that opinion, just based on what I understand of the entire process, is that they're definitely going to look at it. They're going to look at how did Mr. Elizondo bring these videos out? Is there a problem? Is there a legal problem? Is there a breach of security? There's a lot of questions there, and I'm not going to pretend to know the answer. But what is being shown here with evidence is that this was definitely not 100% kosher. This was not Mr. Elizondo saying, okay, Dopser, I want these for public release, and I'm going to potentially use them to join a public benefit corporation, and then Dopser says, yep, okay, approved. That's not how all of this went down. And so I think that there's a lot of unanswered questions. My best guess is the DOD would absolutely look at it. That doesn't mean there's an official investigation or anything criminal, but I would say that they would look at it. There's too much attention that's been brought to this. But then you have to really ask yourself a question, because this, I think, is a huge, huge, huge misconception by the public. There's 2 points to this. Those that support Mr. Elizondo and think that I'm the devil say, well, he's not in jail, so he didn't do anything wrong. We don't know of an investigation, so that means there is none, and so that means that you're wrong, Greenewald, and he didn't do anything wrong. On the contrary, we know that for a fact, and I can document this, DODIG, or Department of Defense Office of the Inspector General investigations, sometimes take years. So the government is not fast with what they do. So the fact that nothing has happened yet doesn't really mean anything. The second part of that, though, is they have to weigh a very important point here. And that important point is that, let's say he did do something wrong. Mr. Elizondo did do something wrong. And the DODIG, they investigate and they go, okay, we need to take action here, whatever that might be. If they take action, they turn Mr. Elizondo into a martyr to a large percentage of people that have watched his TV show and support him, and will now ultimately say that the government is trying to squash the truth, that this is a big cover-up and conspiracy. So they have to weigh that too, in my personal opinion, that they have to understand, if they were to take action, what the reaction would be by the general public. And so they would have to deal with that. And if you don't believe me, just look what happened to Julian Assange. They take him away in cuffs and the world erupts. Half the world, he's a devil and he's got what he deserved. The other half, he's a martyr, and he's doing journalism, and he's being thrown in jail for being a journalist. So you have two different schools of thought there. I think the same would happen with this, and I think that they have to weigh that on how much of a problem it was for him to get the videos out in the way that he did, and utilize them the way that he did.
John, I want to get some of my audience questions involved here because I love the audience being a part of this show. It's very important from our chat room perspective to allow them to have a little bit of a say here. And I'm going to start off with Double B here. And before I do, I want to give a shout out to Jason Yan, who is listening to this show for the first time. He was recommended it. He's really enjoying it, says we can't put him to sleep because he's way too interested in hearing what we're talking about. So thank you, Jason, for giving us an opportunity to earn your listening ears, as well as other first-time listeners tonight. Appreciate that. But let's start off with Double B's question. He goes, Mark D'Antonio's MUFON video analyst and astronomer says that he finds nothing particularly exceptional or convincing about the 3 TTSA videos. What is your opinion of Mark's opinion?
Well, I really respect Mark. I've been friends with him for a long time, and so for me, his opinion absolutely has weight to it, and I appreciate it. I never do, and this is not to take away from Mark, always put my eggs in one basket. I think that the videos are interesting, but they lack context. And sadly, the stories that, namely the Nimitz one, or the FLIR 1 video and the Nimitz encounter, I think is something that we really should look into. I feel bad that the story is so connected to TTSA because I feel it should stand alone. And the tarnish of TTSA, I'm afraid, will eventually, if it hasn't already, tarnish that incident. My whole point, though, is I'm not sure what the videos depict. I find it fascinating that they have been analyzed by not only Mark, who says, hey, there's nothing that interesting, if that's what he was saying, but also someone like Mick West, who I know is not very liked by some UFO believers. Mick is a debunker or self-proclaimed debunker. However, he comes up with very convincing and thorough arguments on what these videos are, and he does experiments and gets into the technology. And if you haven't seen his video, regardless of what your thoughts are on him, I would tune in and look him up and see how he broke down these videos. Now, why do I bring him up? Well, before the news broke about how Mr. Elizondo described the videos, ironically, Mick's conclusions were very much in line with how Mr. Elizondo described those videos as being potentially a drone or some type of unmanned aerial vehicle. And I think Mick even went on the record with one of them saying that he felt like it may have been just a normal fighter jet aircraft, manned fighter jet. But regardless, it really coincided with how Mr. Elizondo was describing the videos to Dopser and on the official forum. That to me is an interesting coincidence because now you have a experiment, something that was provable and repeatable from Mick West, and then you have the evidence of Mr. Elizondo's own words, and they line up with each other. Not UFOs, UAPs, or anything of the sorts, but rather something that has a much more earthly explanation. Then you add in other critiques like Mark. I think we should pay attention to that. That's not to take away from the military men and women who came forward, by the way. I think that is some of the most powerful testimony you can get. So I think we should listen to them. But in the same respect, those videos, I don't think that we've got anything earth-shattering.
I'd like to see the full video footage, definitely, rather than a
I am working on that.
Second. Well, good. I hope
so. You know, I'm hoping to have some news for you soon. Not to tease you, but I hope that I have some news for you soon.
Well, I hope that you help us, allow us to be a part of that as well once you break it open to the public. PBR is asking, what are your opinions then of Tom DeLonge and Luis Elizondo?
I have to separate that answer. Tom DeLonge, I think, is very genuine, but I think in the same respect, very gullible. I think his heart is in the right place. I think that he really does have a passion for this. I respect that passion. In the same respect, I think that he's a little bit gullible. You know, he hears something and it's got to be true. And so I think that we've got a lot of overlap between him having his heart in the right place and maybe potentially looking at things that do warrant a closer look. In the same respect, he's got a lot of other stuff that's entwined in that. And then you got the really crazy ideas when you talk about his Joe Rogan interview and a couple other interviews that he's done. Sadly, it's heart in the right place. He's passionate, but I think very gullible. Mr. Elizondo is I'm on the fence. I think that there's a lot of unanswered angles to his story. I feel it has been really interesting here in the last couple of months since the Pentagon stated what they did, because again, when you add in the red flags on and make them stand alone, it's very interesting. When you then put on top of that the Pentagon is willing to go on the record and say that he is not who he is saying he is, now you've got a very interesting situation, one of which he has not countered yet. Now, I don't know about you, Dave, but I stand by what I tell people, and not only about UFOs, but just my life. And, I've worked as a television producer, and I've worked for History Channel and Discovery Channel and so on and so forth. And if I went on your show and I said, well, I worked for History Channel and I told you a little bit about it, and then all of a sudden there was this big movement to say that I never worked for the History Channel, I would be all over that, proving that I was not lying. I mean, there's people that'll back me up. I've got evidence, so on and so forth. Now, granted, that's a little bit different than a government job, but my whole point is that why would he leave that alone? That's something that's fairly bad to have happen to you, that you make a claim and then your former employer says, nope, sorry, you're not being accurate here. I would think that with his Rolodex, he could pick up the phone, call somebody and say, look, Joe, or look, Jim, or look, Sandra, I need you to go on the record for me and support me because we worked with each other. You know what I did, so on and so forth. And yet no one's come forward. People will argue, well, everybody's in these secret positions. Okay, well, you don't have anything to prove a 80+% unclassified project that you worked on. There's not anything to support it. Every document that has leaked through George Knapp primarily, when it comes to the reports that were generated in the OSAP years of this, all lack Mr. Elizondo's name. They actually have a different name who headed the OSAP program. His name was James Lukatsky. Wish I could find him. Never been able to. But regardless, all of this information lacks Mr. Elizondo's name. And so back to your audience member's question, that bothers me. I think that should make anyone have questions about Mr. Elizondo's claims. And the fact that he's left it all alone, it's like this pink elephant that he doesn't want to deal with, and there's no evidence that's come out. The only evidence that has come out was through George Knapp, which was a letter from Senator Harry Reid, which oddly was redacted when he first released the letter. And then when the Pentagon said what they did about Mr. Elizondo, he re-released it, and then poof, Mr. Elizondo's name was on it. And so I was surprised that no one else did this. I took that letter to the Pentagon seeking if they would change their statement and their stance on Mr. Elizondo. And to my surprise, not only did they have no problem confirming that the letter was real and that Mr. Elizondo's name did appear on it, it absolutely changed nothing. That his name on that did not prove anything, and it did not relate to ATIP. Now, not to go off on a tangent, I actually believe that there's a viable explanation for his name being on there. I don't know if you want me to get into it, but regardless, I think that that's really telling that we have no evidence to go against what the Pentagon says. I'm totally open that the Pentagon is lying, but there's no evidence.
All right, let's get to Catherine's question because we got a few here. I want to run through them. We got about 4 minutes here before we go to break at the top of the hour. Catherine is asking, John, what is your opinion on the achievements, or what do you think the achievements are of TTSA so far? Because we focus a lot on the negative, John, but let's get to some positives here.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think a lot of the awareness to the public that TTSA has brought to the UFO topic, which again I think goes to the core of what they have wanted to do, I think is very admirable. I like it. I think that the field needs more of it. My concern then turns into the negative, so I won't work that into the answer. But as long as they have the aim to be truthful and honest with their answers and their presentation of the material, that attention that they've brought to the field, I think, is definitely a plus.
All right, let's get to another one here. This one's from Joey. He says, in reference to a FOIA copy of Memorandum to J. Edgar Hoover dated July 25th, 1957, unclassified July 3rd, 1980, concerning a woman referred to as Mrs. Margaret Storm, who knew Nikolai Tesla. Mrs. Storm drew attention to herself for national security reasons by issuing newsletters which contained information pertaining to Tesla's interplanetary communication device of 1938. Tesla died in 43, and it is alleged that some of his papers were found blowing down the street in the wind after his death. Why is the FBI concerned with this enough 14 years later to be writing memos about his work, especially after virtually ignoring him during the World War II and his apartment mysteriously raided upon his death? Do you have any knowledge of this or factual opinion on it?
That specific memo off the top of my head, I can't comment on because that doesn't ring a bell, but it's been a couple of years since I've received Tesla's FBI files and been a couple of years since I've looked at them. So admittedly, I may have read it and just don't recall. So I don't think I have an educated guess there. I will say as a whole, though, the FBI did definitely have an interest in Tesla and his claims and technology. And I don't think it was ever really proven that the documents were destroyed, although I'll have to look back in the records, but I do know that some were if memory serves me well, not found by the FBI when I was seeking Tesla's files. So I think that there's a lot there that's been lost to history. Whether the documents were shredded or lost, I'm not really sure, but I think that there's a lot more interest a lot more interest on the FBI side into Tesla than we're led to believe, and I think the documentation proves that. But that specific memo, I would say I'm not sure I can comment off the top of my head on.
We got about 90 seconds here. Let's get to Jade's question. She says, maybe it's meant to be this way, to be discredited enough so that the mainstream people say or think it's just another BS thing. Their actions are very unprofessional, but for a reason. It's contrived in order to get people turned off the UFO field. This is in regards to TTSA. What do you think?
If I understand that correctly, well, it's going to be hard to answer in 60 seconds, but I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to say. If they're trying to make people disinterested, I mean, what I said with the positive. Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, though, that was definitely not their aim. I mean, it was quite the opposite, and that was one of the good things that they've been able to do. However, I think that the question would be better posed is, are they trying to potentially muddy the waters a little bit? I wouldn't want to make that claim, but that's more of a quote-unquote conspiracy behind all of this that's more believable for me, that they get as much attention as they can. Build this house of cards, so to speak, and then watch it crumble. That's a conspiracy theory that I could entertain. I wouldn't make that claim, but that's more believable to me based on the facts than they tried to get the media not to pay attention to it, if I understood it correctly.
Yeah, I think with the media, I think it's more... I can't not be convinced, because I've worked in the newsrooms. I cannot be convinced that this is something that has been tried to be covered up. The media covered it up on its own by not wanting the topic. And, I'm really surprised, John, as we only got about 10 seconds here. I'm really surprised that out of all these UFO conferences that are out there right now, that nobody is speaking on it outside of Cheryl Costa. Nobody is speaking on. And I find that very concerning, because it is such a huge play. Actually, we've got about a minute here. I apologize. It's such a huge play on what is happening in ufology today, and it's like nobody wants to talk about it.
You're talking about the UFO topic as a whole, or you're talking about
exactly
what do they want to talk about?
The message, the media, everything.
I would respectfully disagree. I think that the media does want it, but I think that they need something that is at least believable enough to make a flashy headline and get the click. And I know that I'll get letters about this, but this is something that in this day and age people have to think about. The print media is dead. We all know that. The print versions of many of these magazines and newspapers are going away if they haven't already. The clicks are gold. And so I think that they do want the UFO topic now more than ever, because UFOs have proven time and time and time again to be the receiver of the most clicks out of these online newspapers' histories. I don't know this for a fact, but I would venture a guess that New York Times story that broke in December of 2017 probably stands at least in the top 10, if not top 5, if not possibly the most clicked story, the most loaded story in their entire history. And so that's where I would respectfully disagree that in this day and age, journalists want this story more than anything, but they need to have it at least believable enough to be supported.
I got to cut you off right there. Hour 3 next on Spaced Out Radio.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docuseries featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and Bigfoot in the forest. Truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Richard Dolan, as well as others all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Come hang out with me, Little Richie G, as I take over the airwaves on Spaced Out Saturdays. This is Rich Giordano, and I'm going to bring you the most fun on the radio you can have with your clothes on. We're going to get to the heart of the subjects, from UFOs to what's going on in the paranormal and everything in between. So come join me at spacedoutradio.com, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, for the fastest 3 hours of your week.
So you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com. At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. We want to give a shout out to everyone listening in on WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, and we're on KDNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas. On the digital side, hi to everyone listening in on Revolution Radio and Kingdom of Nye Radio. Great to have you with us. Don't forget, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Onicophagist. Onicophagist is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. If you're an experiencer, want it investigated, fill out a Sightlines report, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, which is updated daily, and you can also rock out to Bumblefoot. Much more coming soon. For the final time tonight, we introduced John Greenewald, his website, theblackvault.com, if you want to check it on out. He's one of the best when it comes to researching, especially his Freedom of Information Act information that he has plethora of paperwork on, all for you to view. John, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's been a lot of fun.
John, I'm going to take this in a little bit of a different angle here for a couple of minutes. And as an experiencer, Okay, someone who has had close encounters with UFOs, with extraterrestrials. I've been taken. Many of my listeners are like that as well, where they've seen strange things or had incredible encounters. When we look at the metamaterials, the videos, everything, the main thing that we think about is it's irrelevant to us. It's irrelevant to what the government knows, because for people who've experienced this phenomena personally, it is very much something that is close to the heart, close to the chest, because we've faced the ridicule, we've faced the laughter, we've faced the finger pointing, the loss of friends, the loss of family because they think we're a bunch of wingnuts or weirdos or whatever you want to call it. And for a lot of people out there who are experiencers, they almost feel this new round of disclosure, if we could call it that, is almost patronizing to what they've gone through. You're not allowed to say aliens anymore. You're not allowed to say UFOs. You're not allowed to combine the two. And this is becoming very frustrating for a lot of experiencers. In what you've seen with this state of ufology right now, are the forgotten souls the experiencers out there who just want an answer as to why me?
I don't think that they're forgotten, and I'll defend TTSA on their stance in the sense that if they want to bring public awareness to this, I'm not saying that this is right or wrong, but to the general collective, the general public, I feel that this was the right approach, that you have to start with the nuts and bolts. You have to start with leading people that are not familiar with experiencers and who has experienced what and what are the stories and so on and so forth, that you need to introduce them a step at a time. And if they came out of the starting gate and went 0 to 90 in a second and a half and started talking about those that have had experiences and so on, I'm not trying to take away from them. But what I'm saying as to the general public, the handling of it would not be the same as, let's say, a nuts and bolts question mark. Now, what I don't agree with was the whole changing of the UFO to UAP, and that to me is silly. UFOs are UFOs. They're unidentified flying objects. Anybody who says UFOs is alien and it automatically means aliens doesn't understand it. So to try and rebrand that aspect of it, I felt was kind of silly. But I do support that angle, that they had to start with the nuts and bolts, get the general public comfortable with that idea, and then taking it a step farther, if they really did bring something forth that was irrefutably, quote-unquote, alien, irrefutably extraterrestrial, irrefutably manufactured somewhere other than here, if they're able to achieve that, that then paves the way to say to the general public, okay, Dave, what happened to you? Now, again, I'm not saying that that's taking away from your story or anybody else's, but rather to the general public, that's how they had to do it. And I would agree with their angle.
I understand that, but you could see the timidness of the experiencer because they're not being talked about, John. They aren't being talked about in the media. It is all about the nuts and bolts, and in the end, with that why me question by the experiencers, there's a bigger question out there that comes out, at least on this show it has, and I've heard others mention it as well, is why now? Why all of a sudden is this the thing? Why did this have to happen? It hasn't happened in decades. For years, there have been the cover-ups. For years, there have been the finger-pointing, the denials. You look at the Rick Doties of the world who were paid to give out disinformation, so on and so forth, ruin people's credibility back in the day. And now, all of a sudden, whether it's the Pentagon, the Navy, whomever it is, we are sitting there saying, it's time. We're talking about this. This is a hot button topic. Why now? What happened to make this a thing now? Because I don't believe, as much as I like what TTSA has done to bring this subject to the public and get the awareness out there, I don't believe it's just them who have had that much pull to make this a why now topic.
I wish I had a good response to that, and I'm not sure, because part of me says, yes, TTSA is responsible for bringing that awareness. They had star power. They were led by a rock star. They had powerful people. They had a powerful newspaper that took the gamble in December to profile them, Politico as well. I mean, they're both powerful, but obviously New York Times, I think, would arguably be kind of the name that covered this, and they got the most credit. And then in the other respect, I think that the Navy, I think that story, it is potentially embellished a little bit. One of the other sets of releases that I got about these UFO guidelines, because I think that's what you meant, nothing about it says UFOs or UAPs. So does that make them UFO guidelines? The UFO guidelines thing was put on by Brian Bender at Politico. So there's no official label here. And when you look at the actual talk behind the scenes, they're talking about drones primarily. They're talking about, they do say unidentified aircraft, but the angle was very much in line with what Mr. Elizondo was telling Dopser about the database he wanted to create. So there's a really interesting synergy behind Elizondo's 2017 talk and these UFO guidelines in 2019. And again, they're very similar, and documents are revealing that. So I'm not sure, to go back to your question, why now? But I think one thing that you have to do is look at the heart of all of these different stories. We're being drowned by different stories here in the last year and a half to 2 years. Are we being told the truth? And when you talk about UFO guidelines, that sounds great. But when you look at the documentation and the talk about it and the official statements, and UFOs have nothing to do with how they're explaining these guidelines, does that make them UFO guidelines? Now, I'm not being a skeptic here. I'm genuinely asking that question. Are we being told the correct story? Or does Politico see a flashy headline? Do other newspapers see flashy headlines? So we have to ask that question. We got to look at it. And unfortunately, not many people are anymore. So why now? Well, I'm not sure. I mean, we could be seeing a very over-embellished story, and it's not happening to the lengths that we think it is, and that's a big possibility. The stories in December of 2017 may have been wildly embellished. May have been based on a rocky foundation that nobody really fact-checked, because the snowball effect goes back to the New York Times and Politico. The snowball effect stems from those two. A lot of agencies beyond that did not do their own research. I call it copy and paste journalism. The copy and paste journalism just reference, hey, New York Times talked about this today, and here's the story. Politico broke the news, there's UFO guidelines, here's the story. So there's always a root to these stories, and then the copy and paste journalism takes over. The question mark is, how true is the root? And for me, as a researcher, again, I don't claim to be a journalist, but we have to look at all the evidence there. And I dug up the emails through the Freedom of Information Act of the communications between Brian Bender and Politico, the online Politico news site, and the Department of the Navy. And I put that evidence out there. I did no editorial, no article attached. I just put some basic background information and said, here you go. Here's the emails. And it was really interesting to see the public response. It's like, wait a minute. We were told these were UFO guidelines. The Navy doesn't even talk about that. And people pick up, those that care to look at the evidence, start to pick up like, hey, wait a minute. This isn't the story that was spun to us. And so I saw a lot of those types of comments online. And those are encouraging simply because it shows that people care about the evidence. They care about the real story. And so is it really happening now to the lengths that we think it is? Or are we getting told a story that is not necessarily 100% the truth? I'm not here to answer that. I'm just saying that's something we definitely have to consider.
So with that, as we are considering all the information and how it's getting out there, whether it's TTSA or not, there's somebody in the Pentagon or people in the Pentagon, no matter what the agency is, who are trying to get this out. I have heard that there is a real split in this within the Pentagon because many people say it's time. Other people are saying, no, the U.S. public and the world public is not ready for this story. They're not ready for ET contact, whether it's due to religious beliefs, whether it's due to their own health, their own sanity. There's a lot of different reasons that are pointing towards this direction. So do you think there is that inner battle going on at the Pentagon on whether or not this story should come out?
I've heard the rumors as well. I just don't see anything to support that. And I'm kind of an evidence-driven guy. I take in everything and anything that I can, but I want to try and prove that anything and everything, and I just don't see it. I know it was reported that it was for religious reasons that ATIP was ultimately canceled and defunded, and I mean, I've heard a lot of that. But when you start digging and you look at it, that didn't, in my opinion, there's kind of like there's no connection that can be drawn at this point to those types of stories. Here's one thing that I would throw out there this day and age, and let me preface it by saying I'm a believer that there is a UFO cover-up of some kind, and I'm a believer that this phenomena should be taken very seriously and should have a closer look, because I don't want to come off as a debunker. But in this day and age, what I would find very plausible is that the United States military would want to spin a UFO story because of encounters like the Nimitz, when quite possibly the Nimitz encounter could have been our own technology, unbeknownst to the pilots, unbeknownst to the Navy personnel, but quite possibly a test of our own equipment on our own personnel. Now, as crazy as that sounds, it's documented going all the way back to the 1950s that the military will withhold information from their own to test their technology or test their expertise. One of my favorite examples, really quick to prove that, is when the Corona satellites were up taking pictures around the world. These were the original spy satellites. They decided they proposed doing a flyover of Area 51, which existed in the 1950s. Do not tell the CIA analysts what they were looking at photos of, but they were taking photos of Area 51, would give it to the analysts and say, what do you see? What can you determine? And the idea was if the Soviets had something very similar to Corona and took pictures of our military bases, what could they determine from it? Now, I bring that up because through the decades, that's proven time and time again. So quite possibly, I'm not saying this is top of my list, but quite possibly in this day and age, the UFO stories are welcomed by the United States military because it keeps us trying to figure out if it's aliens, or for a lot of people, they've determined it's aliens. And yet the reality is a highly classified, top secret drone technology or highly advanced aircraft or some type of UAS or unmanned aerial system that they're flying in or around naval battle groups for whatever reason. That's a possibility. So it's possible that the military wants to spin the UFO story, and they welcome it because it keeps the attention off of potentially what the military is doing. So there's a lot of possibilities on what is going on here.
John, we only got you for about another 6.5 minutes on the show tonight, and there's so much that we could be asking. In regards to all of this, where do you see this going in ufology? What are the next steps? Is it more videos? Does the TTSA have to bring more to the table to kind of solidify that credibility and maybe the lack thereof they have, especially with many people in the field of ufology? Do they got to start bringing it together? Because we do know that, and it's been stated publicly, that the TTSA doesn't care about ufology. They care about getting this message out to the mainstream public. And even talking to George Knapp about that, he thinks that was a mistake. He has brought that up to members of TTSA's board and said, forgetting about the people in ufology is not a good move. And yet they have continued down their path of not paying attention. Do you see a blend of everything happening, or do you see this separation, this segregation continuing?
I think the segregation is going to continue unless they come down and talk to us underlings and address some of these issues. I don't agree with the segregation. I believe that they should embrace the UFO community, not because we have unanswered questions and I want to know the answer to them, but rather that's the core of what they're doing. I think they need to embrace the community that's been around for decades and decades prior to them creating the idea of TTSA. I believe that they wouldn't make the mistakes that they've made, meaning they've been shown they've shown audiences a picture of a CGI still frame from an animation, and they called it an actual photo. Those types of things wouldn't happen if they would embrace people in the UFO community. And so that's what they should do. I don't think they're going to do that, though. I think the segregation is going to remain. I'm hoping that the community, that the general public, not just the UFO community, but those that just have a passing interest in this, become not afraid to ask questions, to wonder what is really going on here. Is there another more sinister objective with what we are being told and how we're being told it? I think we shouldn't be afraid to ask those questions. It doesn't mean that we're a debunker. It doesn't mean we're a skeptic. It doesn't mean we're a meanie. It just means that we want to know what's going on. And I think that needs to happen to really get to the root of what's going on and what we're being fed. I hope that happens. The last thing that I would tell people that have just come around since October of 2017 and they think that TTSA is it and they're waiting for more videos. I don't think more videos are going to come. Documentation, at least that's surfaced anyway, doesn't support it. It looks like those 3 videos were the only ones that Mr. Elizondo got released. If there were other forms and emails, well, I look forward to being proven wrong, but all of what we have seen is 100% of what is on the documentation that we've seen. So I don't think there's going to be more videos, and I think the people that are waiting for them, I think should realize that TTSA is not the end-all be-all, that there are decades of material to go through when it comes to photos, videos, film footage reels, government documents, experiencer stories like Dave Scott's. There's a lot of things that they can look at and understand that this is a much bigger topic than just TTSA. And I hope that that's where we go.
In 2.5 minutes that we have left, what are some of the questions that you have that you want answered?
When it comes to TTSA, I try and focus less on the organization, more on Mr. Elizondo, because that, to me, ties into the work I've done for decades. I think that he has to address the Pentagon's stance on his own role. That would be a unanswered question for me that is top of the list. I am open to evidence to the contrary, but I think that is something that needs to absolutely be addressed. I'd like to know why there is a dodging of people that would ask tough questions. The people that are looking to have him address certain things about security. I mean, granted, some things he won't be able to talk about, and I understand that. But there's other questions about his background, about ATIP. Why is there these huge discrepancies on how long ATIP was around and what was its actual aim? Some people want to call it a UFO program. I don't think we can yet. There were UFO aspects to it. We know that officially. It was acknowledged. But really, what was the aim and the goal? I mean, was this something that truly is this UFO program, or did they work in UFOs somehow, or what? I think there's a lot of unanswered things that the public deserves to know, because I think as time has gone on, what we were told in October through December of 2017, if you look at the evidence, it's largely in question. And I'd love to know why all of that is being ignored. And ultimately, when we do see interviews, they're very much softball questions. And is that by design? Is that just because they know the shows they're choosing will not ask them tough questions, or is that their request? So the list goes on, but I think that really you need to get down into the nitty-gritty of what this program was and why his story has changed and morphed. One big point very, very quickly, even his start date on the program varies. He told me through his PR agent, and he told Wired Magazine he started heading the program in 2010. He's told other news outlets, and it was on the History Channel program that he starred in, that he started in 2009. I know that sounds like a small point, but my bigger point with pointing that out is that, sadly, the story keeps changing. That's all documented. So that's what I would want to know more than anything else, is why, if the Pentagon is completely wrong, then why is his story changing and morphing? And that's what I'd want to know.
John Greenewald, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Keep up the great work. Keep in touch with the public the way you do, because what you are doing is very, very important to what we are doing.
I appreciate that. Anytime. Thank you very, very much for the time.
Anytime, my friend. John Greenewald, theblackvault.com. Make sure you check it on out. He's on top of it, people. You got to make sure that you're following what John Greenewald does. Coming up next, the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Looking for something new to push your limits? Look Beyond the Spectrum, a new docuseries featuring some of the best researchers in the world when it comes to everything from UFOs, government cover-ups, and Bigfoot in the forest. Truth seekers like Steve Bassett, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Richard Dolan, as well as others all chip in to bring their knowledge to you. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon as well as Tubi TV. Tell us what you think on our Amazon page.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Good to have all of you with us. Reminder, if you've missed most of this show or others, you can always go back to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where if you're an experiencer, you could fill out a Sightlines report. It's all independent. Your information's protected. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, and you can go to the SOR Newswire. Our news director, Captain Shirk, updates it daily. Speaking of the news, let's get to it, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, and sometimes Darwinian. And that's where we are starting right now, because, you know, sometimes we make stupid decisions as humans. We do. And a young woman, college student, has made a very, very near fatal decision. So this college student was hanging upside down from a balcony 87.5 feet up in the air. So you're looking at 8 stories. Well, she was practicing extreme yoga, hanging upside down from the balcony, when she fell. Alexa Terrazas, originally from Chihuahua, was in the area of Las Provenza, in San Pedro, when she attempted the extreme yoga Terrazas is known for being a thrill seeker and has over 4,000 followers on her Instagram site, so she put this all on video. She's a student of nutrition in university, and in addition to her studies, pursues skydiving, bungee jumping, and other adrenaline-fueled activities. So, extreme yoga doesn't seem that hard. No. But when you're not holding on to the balcony and you go a little further, well, things happen. She broke 110 bones falling 87 feet. She will need full reconstruction surgery on her ankles, knees, and face. Most likely will not be able to walk again for another 3 years. It is reported she has already undergone 11 hours of surgery. According to numerous Mexican publications, the woman's family is requesting blood and platelet donations through blooders.org. You could have just held on to the balcony. Whatever happened to planking, young lady? You were a beautiful young lady. You didn't have to do this. Yes, college is on hold, among other things. Here's a cool story from Lego. Aiming to make its signature blocks more accessible, Lego is testing the use of AI to translate its building instructions into spoken commands and Braille so that blind users can get in on the fun. The idea came from Matthew Schifrin, an expert Lego builder who was born blind. Matthew had a friend, Lilia, who would translate all of the Lego instructions from graphical steps into Braille text. Schifrin and Axios worked together with Legos and with the Lego company, and they feel it'll help blind kids in multiple ways. Building Lego sets is not only providing them with a sense of mastery and accomplishment, but also helps people better understand the world around them. Said by Schifrin, as a blind person, cultural landmarks are an abstract concept. I know that the Statue of Liberty is an iconic symbol of America, but I have no idea how it's shaped. It's a woman holding a torch and a scroll. That's all I know. If I climbed it to try and understand its shaping better, I'd get arrested. But if I build the statue out of Lego, then I become intimately familiar with its shaping, and I am better able to understand the world around me. For Schifrin, it's also a tribute to his friend Lilia, who died 2 years ago. He says, I promised myself that I would not let this project rest until Lego took action. I am so glad that they have taken it upon themselves to make their sets accessible to blind children. To ensure the directions were accurate, Lego tested them with Schifrin and children from the UK and Denmark. Lego is starting out with 4 sets with an eye towards expanding the program next year, no pun intended. The effort builds on Lego's introduction earlier this year of Braille bricks. I think this is phenomenal. I had so much fun as a kid with Lego. Believe it or not, the real cool thing about me is I saved my Lego. It's all in pieces. I don't have any of the directions, but I saved my Lego. And watching now my son play with the Lego that I played with, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I think it's one of the coolest things to see my son play with my Lego and my toys. I still have all my metal Tonka. Remember when Tonka trucks were actually metal? They're nearly impossible to find. I still have mine. Yeah, I held on to them. My parents held on to them. And now my little guy plays with them. Very, very cool. Very cool. So good on Lego for doing this, seriously. An anti-groping stamp that lets victims mark people who try to touch them has sold out in less than an hour in Japan. Japanese developer Shakihata Incorporated released a limited amount of the products that use a special ink. And this is what it does. So it is hoped that the Chikan or groper stamps, which cost about £19, will help tackle the problem of groping on crowded trains. So this is how it works. When used, the stamp leaves a mark of an open palm, which can be easily seen under ultraviolet light. The mark is not visible under sunlight, making it very discreet in public and is quick to use as there is no lid. A light which is included with the stamp, can be used to reveal the 9mm stamp, and the mark can be washed off. Buyers of the product also get a strap, which can be attached to bags and show others that they have the stamp on them. The company only released 500 of the stamps yesterday, but told customers on Twitter that they would post on their website if more were made. A spokesperson for the company has said that after the trial sale, the company plans to adapt the product based on feedback. In a series of posts made on the company's Twitter account, this is just a small step in ending this type of perversion. They said the most ideal would be a world free of sexual crimes. This is a small step. We will continue to think of ways to contribute to society. Good for them. Good for them. Doesn't matter, male, female, whatever you want to be. All right? Nobody deserves to have their private spaces invaded like that, especially in public. Good for them. I hope it works. Here's a strange one. A couple fought off a bear and her cub with fists and a baseball bat after finding the animals eating a loaf of bread in their kitchen. The incredible fight between the mother bear and John Johnson, who's 71 years old, by the way, was described as an official boxing match. Somewhere, Michael Buffer was yelling, "Let's get ready to rumble." Well, this was it. Title shot right off the bat for the 71-year-old senior. The bear and its cub entered the couple's home in Pine, Jefferson County around 8:30 Monday night. They started eating the loaf of bread. The homeowners found the bears after hearing noises, and Mr. Johnson punched the bigger animal with his George Anfield hit with the bat. Well, pardon me, while his George Anfield hit it with a bat. Yeah. Oh, he took some nasty scrapes on his stomach, too. That could not have felt good. I think that would have been a penalty in hockey. Definitely a penalty in hockey. Well, both of the bears ran out through the screen door they had used to enter the home. Sheriff's office says that Mr. Johnson was scratched and cut on his face and chest and arms by the bear, but he was not seriously injured and treated at the scene. His wife was unscathed. Colorado Parks and Wildlife used dogs to search for the bears up until midnight before going back out at 5:30 a.m. the following day to locate them. The wildlife officers and the United States DA Wildlife Services officials found the bear about 900 yards from the home. They euthanized it. Why'd you euthanize it? Why not just tranquilize it and take it out into the forest? 50, 100 miles. Would have been fine. The cub was not found. Great. So now you're going to have a cub die. All right? Just wanted a loaf of bread, looking for the margarine. You know. Little margarine. You know how it goes. Where's its crown, King? Nothing. So apparently policies state in the state that if a bear attacks and injures a human, it must be euthanized. Oh, BS. Time to change that one up. The bear that was euthanized will now be sent to the University of Wyoming Forensics Lab to confirm if it's the same one that raided the couple's kitchen. So they don't even know if they killed the right bear. Well, maybe the sign that it had no cub may be that you killed the wrong bear. I don't know. That's just me. Who am I? You know, I'm going to tell this John guy something. Start peeing around your stairs so the bears get your scent. And it scares them off. Yeah. Pee around the stairs, man. Never have bear problems. Those who claim, like former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher famously did, to need less than 5 hours of sleep are met with disbelief by the rest of us. Not me. I go on 6. But short sleepers really do exist, and a new study now suggests that they have a gene which wakes them up. While most people need around 8 hours of sleep a night, feeling foggy and confused if they don't get it, natural short sleepers can feel well rested after just 6 hours. Woo! That's what I do. It's impossible to know if Thatcher was genetically short sleeper or just forced herself to stay up, but researchers from the University of California, San Francisco have discovered more than 50 families who require less than 6.5 hours of sleep to get by. Taking one of these families, they have isolated the genetic mutation which they believe is responsible. The culprit is likely to be a gene called ADR-B1. Yeah, I'm sure it picked that name out itself, which increases the activity of the brain cells, which promotes wakefulness, potentially allowing them to stay awake longer. No, it's just the fear of missing something out. In short-sleeping families, all those who needed little sleep shared the genetic mutation, while the longer-sleeping relatives did not have it. Furthermore, there's always a furthermore. When scientists tweaked the same gene in mice, they slept for 55 minutes less than regular mice. This is one of those studies that I tend to think, why are we putting money into it? Who cares? The only thing that's going to lead to is more work hours. They're not adding any more hours to the day. They're going to take them more away from you, whoever they are. Globalists. Damn you, globalists. A 40-year-old man was bitten by a shark while surfing in the waters of New Smyrna Beach, Florida on Tuesday morning. Donald Walsh, a chiropractor from MIMS, is the fourth person to be bitten by a shark in these waters in just the last month, and 11th in the whole of 2019. New Smyrna Beach, located on Florida's central east coast, is considered to be the shark attack capital of the world, according to the International Shark Attack File. Well, you know Dave's never going to vacation there. Hell no. National Geographic reported that anyone who has entered the water in this area has likely come within 10 feet of a shark. Yep, I'm out. Walsh told Volusia County Beach Safety Ocean Rescue officials that he caught air on a wave while surfing and landed on top of the shark. Oh, my goodness. The animal, which Walsh estimated to be around 6.5 feet long, then bit his hand and leg. Well, of course it did. You startled it, man. Fortunately, the injuries were not life-threatening, and Walsh was subsequently treated on the beach by Ocean Rescue. He was not taken to hospital. One person tweeted about the incident saying, surfer bit on the hand and calf during shark incident. Shark bit him once but interacted with hand and calf. Surfer declined transport to hospital, likely seeking help on his own. We probably cannot afford health care for this, man. That's a lot of stitches. At present, it's unclear what species of shark may have been responsible for the attack. Florida is the U.S. state where most shark attacks occur. Indeed, it has the highest incidence of attacks in the world, although it should be noted that the number of bites dropped there last year. Oh, thank goodness. Yeah, apparently as of October 22nd, make that August 22nd, there have been 35 confirmed shark bites in U.S. waters, with 20 of those occurring in the Sunshine State. Just one of these 35 attacks led to the death of an individual involved. Not going there. Not going there at all. No bloody way. That's where I get into trouble. And finally, oh man, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, I love you, man. I love you. He's still hurting that Pluto lost its status as a planet more than 13 years ago. Speaking at the University of Colorado recently, Bridenstine made it clear that he believes Pluto is a planet, despite its controversially demoted August 24th, 2006, by the International Astronomical Union. Just so you know, in my view, Pluto is a planet, he said. You can write that. The NASA administrator declared Pluto a planet once again. I'm sticking by that. It's the way I learned it, and I'm committed to it. I like this guy. We need to support him. Pluto needs more support. Totally needs more support. It's a planet, man. Enough of this dwarf stuff. Give Pluto its due. It's worked hard for that. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air, because we love the audience participation around here, and you're all good people. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follow, dedicating this one to John Greenewald from the Black Vault. If you made a FOIA request, what would you be searching for and why? Andreas, him and I have battled on Twitter every now and again. I'd send a FOIA to the Pentagon in the hope they would give me the truth about UFOs. Then I would absolutely believe the response they gave me, as you know, they wouldn't lie and mislead us on UFOs. Joe, I've never felt all of the Tesla documents that were confiscated when he died, or was murdered in brackets, were ever pursued harder. Yeah, it's time. It's time. I'd like to see that too, Joe. Marty, our favorite veteran around here. Thank you for serving, Marty. I would request any documents related to the discovery of any giant human skeletons that were sent to the Smithsonian and then were never seen again. Why? Why not? Marty got to see Bumblefoot play with Asia a few weeks ago in Las Vegas. Good job, Marty. Taro, cryptids. I'd like to know everything I can about them, especially Canadian cryptids. I got a story about that. Kind of interesting. Earl, I'd FOIA all the information the government has on John Greenewald. Oh, my goodness. Space Aliens Direct. I would search for documents stored in the name of 1941 England, the list of artifacts that would make it easier for me to remote view my people. Who knows? Maybe I'd learn to speak again. Also, I'd look for anomalous objects in November 3rd, 1982 at New England Power Station. I also sort of want to have my stuff back, but I'm not going to just take what is mine. I simply ask them to replace it. But FOIA? How? Well, you talk to John Greenwald. That's what you need to do. Continuing on here. Adam, I would like to see if there's any O'Hare Airport footage. I live next door. That's why. Remember that a few years ago? That was kind of interesting. I'd love to see that too. Mike, I've made hundreds over the years. I've researched historical murders, historical UFO sightings, and historical ghost reports. I've conducted FOIA with the police, Air Force, Army, and National Archives. Good for you, Mike. Stay on top of it. Tim, missing cases in national parks, the numbers, etc. This is what I wish on my wish list. I know David Paulides gets the runaround on numbers, no list, costs, open investigations. Otherwise, I know no response. Daryl, I would request info about USOs in the waters around Puerto Rico. From my understanding, there are abandoned underwater ancient alien complexes that are shared by humans and extraterrestrials. James, NASA, what the heck is on the dark side of the moon and what the heck is happening at the South Pole? Kevin gets the final word. Yes, Moonith, this is for you. Yo, Dave, my brother. What's the 411 on Putin's BMW and his DD dying when it slammed in by that Benz? Man, did you... What are you trying to speak here, man? English! English! I can't read that. Let's try this again. Man, did the president call the hit get the Vlad Konas about the freaky election detection? Would all lead back to Trump and Putin smooching? You are hilarious. You are hilarious. Hey, big thank you to everybody. Take it on. The thought of the Dave today. We'll do it again on Twitter and on Facebook again tomorrow. So I'd love to read your responses on the air. So let me know. Big thanks to Captain Shirk for getting our news together for the SOR News Wire, which can be found on our website, spacedoutradio.com. And a huge thanks to John Greenwald from the Black Vault for coming on in and discussing everything to do with FOIA requests, TTSA, UFOs. We could have gone another 4 hours. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, on social media chat rooms, wherever you may be. Twitter, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Facebook, the SOR Space Travelers Club. Spreaker, Rev Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us. It really means a lot, because together, my friends,
Don't make a mistake. We're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.